Alright YouTubes, today's video is just going to be a painting video. Nothing spectacular, just painting a new bumper. It's a new bumper for Audi A3 S Line, genuine bumper. And yeah, just show you what I do to prep that up and paint it. It's Mipa black, the colour, so it's base coat and clear, so nice easy colour to do, pearl black. And yeah, the German stuff, you know, the Audi genuine bumpers, BMW and all that, they've got really nice primer on them when you buy them. So I would just key that and paint it. I won't bother wet on wetting it. Some of the cheap, anything aftermarket, if I paint anything aftermarket, I normally wet on wet it, because as soon as you touch the primer on the aftermarket stuff, it comes off. But what I will do to that is I'll key it with 600 pad by hand, and then everywhere else where I can't get in with a pad, I'll just use grey Scotch dry. And then what I will do to it is I'll put what's called Haft promoter. So you get your plastic adhesion promoters, and you can use that on something like this, no problem. But the Haft promoter it's like a bit of a universal type of adhesion promoter, because it works on all sorts of materials. It's not just for plastic. You can use it on bare metal. So Mipa's, their adhesion promoter is called Haft promoter. I think Standox and that, they do a Haft promoter. So it is slightly different to what like your 1K plastic adhesion promoters would be. So yeah, I do use it sometimes. If I put high build on a repair that I've done and there's some bare metal around the edges, high build's not the best for adhering to bare metal. If it's got a bit of a bigger area, I will put Haft promoter on that bare metal. So it's for bare metal, chrome plated plastics, and for badges and all that. So yeah, it works really well as an adhesion promoter. It's just 1K clear, like normal plastic primers, and you just put one light coat on. That's it. That's all you need. One light coat. Put too much on it. Too much of it on, it has the opposite effect to anchor. You can lose some adhesion with it. So yeah, I just put a coat of Haft promoter on it just to make sure. Little edges sometimes you might not get in quite with the Scotch-Brite and stuff like that. Just reassures me. Probably doesn't need it because it's already primed, but it just reassures me that the primer, the paint is gonna stay on there and it's not gonna flake off. But yeah, I definitely would recommend anything aftermarket. I've had it before. Their primers are, you know, the parts are cheap, aftermarket bumpers and stuff like that. The primers are cheap as well. You bust through them as soon as you key them anyway. So I definitely recommend, even if you buy an aftermarket part with primer on it, to put some adhesion promoter over it for definite. And yeah, I'm not going to bother wet and wetting it. Being black, it'd be fine. Sometimes I do wet and wet bumpers, and I will wet and wet them. If the factory primers, you know, I break through everywhere to bare plastic, I will have to promote it and wet it. In some cases, depending on the colour, will determine whether I wet and wet it as well. This bumper being black, dark grey primer on there, it's perfect for it, no problem at all. But yeah, if this was like a red or a white, even though the primer is really good and all the rest of it, like I said, I would need a better base colour on there for that really. So yeah, being a different colour would change my decision on whether I wet it or not. But I'm not going to on this one. So yeah, I'll film a bit of the preparation, and then I'll sort of try to film the job in real time. So like most of my videos, it's probably going to be quite lengthy, but I'll show you without editing it too much how long something like this will take me. So that being said, I'll start prepping it up and we get painting. So before I start prepping it, I always give it just give it solvent to grease. If you don't know who's had their greasy mitts over it. So solvent to grease with microfiber, and then 600 pad by hand, and then grey Scotch. You can see the primer's so good quality on, you know, on the German stuff. It just dusts off straight away. 600. It just needs a light scuff. You don't need to be sanding it all out. It's smooth as anything. There's no texture in it, so it's just keying it. You don't need to be taking out any texture. You know, some makes of vehicles, some manufacturers, you get their bumpers and the primers textured and dry and rough. So you have to sand every little bit of it to get that out. And like I said, in them sort of circumstances, that's when I'll go a bit coarser. I'll go like 500 grit or something like that. Maybe even use a DA, and then I'll wet it. But the German stuff, you know, light rubbing, just breaks straight into it. You're not looking to take no texture out. You're just looking to give it a key. So I've prepped this bumper in the spray booth. Sometimes I do prep new parts in the spray booth, but if I do any prepping in the spray booth, once I've prepped it, I turn the booth on and then go straight in with water-based degreaser. I don't blow any of the dust off. I try and collect as much of the dust with the water-based degreaser and a microfiber cloth, and then go round and blow dry it, and it just minimises any contamination that I'm putting into my spray booth. So once I've done that process with the water-based degreaser, I do exactly the same again with solvent-based degreaser. Cover it in degreaser, use a clean microfiber cloth to spread it all around, and then use the blowgun and dry it all off with the microfiber cloth, and make sure I get it out of all the recesses, because there is a risk of it hiding in the recess and could blow out on you when you start painting it. I'll give you a little run through of how to mix colour on this system and how you go through the software to get to the formulation, and it's pretty straightforward. They're all pretty similar. So you've got manufacturer, colour number, colour name, formulation number, year manufacturer, scanner input if you've got a number from that, or you can search by year if you're not sure and you want to see what colours are out that year, that type of thing. Anyway, so go manufacturer, Audi, colour code's Y9T. I've already done this and checked the colour, by the way, but this is what I would normally do. I put the colour code straight in. This is what I would normally do to get to the colour that I want. Put the colour code in. I've got all my variants there. There's 4 variants. There's standard, greener lighter, redder lighter, yellower darker. On this colour, it's quite surprising, we've got 3 colour chips out of those 4. So we've got the standard variant, colour chip, we've got redder lighter, yellow darker. So they're the chip numbers. The chips are just in numbers, they're in colour order, not in manufacturer, so they cross over between manufacturers. I didn't quite like that system at first. I liked it to be a car manufacturer on the chip and all the rest of it, but it is actually handy because you'll have slightly different versions either side of one of these chip numbers. So if you went for one of these variants, you thought, you know, it's almost there, but it doesn't look quite whatever way you want to go, quite as dark, needs to be lighter, whatever. you can just have a little look next to them, because they're all pretty similar the way they're grouped, so the effects might be the same, you know, as it goes along. And yeah, you can sort of pick another one sometimes, so you don't have to go by, you know, that chip number. This is what they're saying, that colour code, you know, that chip number will correspond with it, but it gives you a bit more scope for looking for other shades as well. What I always do, I just get the colour code. There's pretty much 9 times out of 10 there's always a standard chip. Sometimes there isn't. Quite often there's not many of the variants in chips, so I just go standard, go and get that standard, go and get it against the car. Don't get any other colours, any other shades. Don't go out there with all loads of chips trying to put them all next to each other, because it's just going to bamboozle you, and you're going to be indecisive of what shade to go for. So just go standard, always go standard, just go standard, look at it and think, which way does that need to go? If it looks good, I think if standard looks good, then I'll just go for it. No messing about, just go for it. If I think the effect looks right, put my light on it, look at it at different angles. Quite often it might look good, but then on the flop it might not look right. So then you need to start looking at other shades. So yeah, if standard looks good, I'll just go for standard, and that's what I will put on there. So I'm doing standard on this because I've done it before and it looks good. I have got a corrected version on here, but the effect wasn't as good on the corrected version. So any corrected scans that you've done, you can save them, and when you put that colour code in and click own formulas, you'll be able to look at anything that you may have scanned previous, and if you sprayed it out, you've got something to correspond with that scan. If you know, 9 times out of 10 you should be spraying your scans out. Put a reference on there. There's always a number for your scan number, and then you can go and look at those colour cards as well, you know, your spray out cards, and you maybe use a scanned one on it from one car, may look good on another car as well. So so there's that option as well. So I'm doing standard on this. It looks good on the chip, and like I say, I've done it before. So once I've got the colour where I need it, you know, the shade that I want to put on there, then you've got two choices. You've got base coat, which is normal solvent base coat, Mipa normal solvent base coat, and WBC, which is their water. So you just click the tick on the water, then it will give you, it'll tell you what it is, the quality is water based, then your quantity, on this bit here, I never use it, you can click the squares for different parts of the vehicle. You can choose the car size, medium, small or large, and then you can click dismantle parts, so if they're new parts off the car, and it will give you what it recommends, the amount. So it's a medium sized car, it's a rear bumper, and it's dismantle. I never use this, to be honest with you. Dismantle parts, rear bumper, 330. I would go 360, I would, but let's go with it anyway. So I'm going to go with that. I don't ever do that. I've only sort of done it once or twice since I had the system, but because I was recording it, I thought I'd show you it. So it's recommending this colour on a rear bumper on a medium sized car. In total, in grams, grams is similar to millilitres in water. The weight works out roughly the same. So it's saying 330. So I'm going to go for that. I would have done 350. I would have done. So I would have done 350 mil basically, give or take. But I do always put it in grams. You know, like primers weigh a lot more. They're denser. So you could, you know, like 500 grams of primer might only be about 300 mil of it. So yeah, if you see what I'm saying. Anyway. So that's what I'm going to mix. So that's the formulation there, and then what you do then is click ready for use, because you want to add your thinner to it. You can change your weight. So look, it's in grams. So if I change that to litres, again it's 330. It's the same. Millilitres, sorry. And then yeah, ready for use. So it gives you your ready for use product, what you want to add to it. So the product is water based, then your ready for use products, you've got a drop down bar. It's got all your other stuff that you, if you wanted to add hardener, wanted to add the one visit modifier that they got now, all things like that you can add. But I just want WBC as a standard ready for use formula, which is the water thinner. So it adds it into the mix. And there we have it, there's the formula. So it's added the water in with it as well. You can mix it without the water if you don't want to be using it straight away, and you can then re-enter it back onto the scales, put the amount of base coat that you've got in your pot, put it on the scales, and you can just add the water later if you want. It's 20% water, water thinner. So yeah, we're using it now, so I'm going to add it now. So I'll get mixing this colour up. Click mixing. Make sure that's always in. I mix straight in these. The filters are good on these. This water base isn't that lumpy. Some can be really lumpy. So I mix straight in these, and you know, don't bother straining it before it goes in one of these. These Sata pots have got good strainers on them, and I've never had any issues. If I mix a bigger amount and I need a bigger pot than what goes, one of these Sata pots that goes on the gun, then I will filter it sometimes. But yeah, there's no need really. Like I say, some water bases can be quite lumpy, and some of them lumps can get sucked through the strainer. So you may need to mix it in a separate cup first and strain it into your pot. But I haven't found any need to yet anyway. So it says place empty pot on the scale, and then you just click OK. Every tinter, give it a little shake, nothing too aggressive, but just shake it over a little bit. Make sure that's nice and free. Any lumps, pick them off. Quite often these, like this one has, it builds up in there, so I have to start scraping them out after a while, get the lumps, you know, the dried up bit out of there, because especially when you're trying to just do little drops of paint, that can hinder you, and might only need a couple of drops and you go way over, and then you've got to try either recalculate, and if it don't fit in the pot, you've got to bin it. So just get a bit of that crud out of it. Then every time I always just wipe the excess off the bottom of there. Get it to 0, 0, 0 on there. It's all green, your line's green, and then just click next component. Always scrape round the edges, get as much of that colour off around the edges of your pot as possible. So it's all degreased, the paint's mixed, I'll get the booth on, blow it off, give it a tack off, give it a quick coat of Haft promoter, and then once that's flashed off, about 10 minutes, start applying the base coat. 2.5 coats of base coat, 2 coats of clear coat. Clear coat I'm going to be using is Mipa CX4, and the guns I'm using are Satas, as always. X5500 with 1.2i setup for the base coat, and I'm going to use a CC gun for the clear coat. clear coat stage now. Again, I mix it straight in the pot. Unless I'm using a bigger amount, then I'll strain it, but I mix it directly in here. I don't really have any issues with any lumps coming through these filters. 190 micron, so they're, you know, good for water base. And clear coat, you can use 125 micron on clear coat and top coats, but 190 microns fine for that. So again, I do everything on the scale. So I'm using Mipa CX4. There's no thinners in it. It's just 2:1 with a hardener. Could do it on the side and all that, but I like to do it on here, and I like to get it bang on, because on your hardener choices, it does make a difference. When you change your hardener, it will change the amount, the ratio slightly, only a bit, but it does that for a reason. So that's the reason why I like to do everything on the scale, so it's accurate. And if I'm using clear coat with thinners in it, like CC14 or CC9, it will give me a bar from 0 to 5 percentage wise of how much thinner to put in, so I can be more accurate, because I will play with it. I will put 5 in, sometimes I'll put 4 in, sometimes I'll put 3 in, and I know these are only small amounts, but it changes the finish a little bit, and it might change what I'm looking for as a finish, as a gun finish. So doing it on the scales, it's an accurate reference for me to know that I've put a little bit less in thinners or a little bit more, and like I said, with a hardener. So I like doing it by weight. I've been doing it like this for ages. Doing it on the scales is more accurate than trying to, you know, especially on a small amount, trying to get your paint exactly to these lines. You pour stuff in, it's got bubbles on the top. I don't think it's that accurate, to be honest with you, but each their own. That's the way I do it. So you go ready for use product, keep it on water basis, your quality. So depending on, you know, what your application was beforehand, then it'll give you all the auxiliaries, all the different products that will go with that are compatible with water base. I'll just choose CX4. CX4, and I'll do this again. I'll do it from the amount it recommends. So I'll click bumper, I'll click dismantle parts, and again, it's giving me the same amount of clear coat as it did the base coat. To be honest with you, I've got a bit of base coat left, so obviously colour dependent. You know, with base coat you may use more depending on the colour, but to me that's a bit too much. I would go less than that. I would go 300. Let's just keep it at that, see how much I've got left, see how accurate that is. And also it gives you temperature range. So it's all about what temperature range it is. You know, climate wise, not your booth. Your booth's always going to be the same temperature if you've got a booth with heating, obviously. So with winter, so I keep it at 10 to 15, and then it selects the hardener for you, which would be the fast hardener. So I'll keep it all of that, and then gives you 2 different hardeners. There's a HX4, which is like a super rapid hardener, but I don't use that anymore. I use HS10, which is fast. If you notice, I changed from HS to 10. It's 215 grams of clear and 114 of hardener. When I do it with HS10, it's 218 of clear and 212 hardener, so it does change it. Click mix in, place empty cup on there, click OK, ready to go. When I click next, I just click recalculate, and it give me the right amount to go in there. Recalculation, and then HS10 hardener. slightly over. Come on then. Do it.